Welcome back. You're watching Prime Property. Buyers in Noida have had a torrid run, and for several reasons. Delayed projects, a retrospective order of the National Green Tribunal banning real estate activities for nearly 2 years, buyers claiming extra charges are being levied as the Noida authority is passing on the higher compensation ordered by the Supreme Court for farmers. So what are your rights? I reached out to DSK Legal for answers earlier this week. Here's a conversation I had. So let's discuss this further with Neeraj Kumar, partner of DSK Legal. Thanks, Neeraj, for joining us here on Prime Property. So, we've been getting so many queries from buyers of Noida, Greater Noida, but how developers are telling them, come do your fit-outs, but in the absence of an occupation certificate. How wary should buyers be of such a move?
Well, this problem will be more often in Noida, Greater Noida and Yamuna Expressway rather than in any other part of the country. The reason is the way the land is allotted to the developers by the authority. There is a history to it. Initially, all the group housing plots, not all but majority of it, was being offered to the developers on a deferred lease basis. And the element of deferred lease, for example, the total lease payable is 100. So 40 was to be paid over a period of 60 days or of the allotment, and balance was to be paid in EMI or equity monthly installment, half yearly, over a period of 4 years. This got relaxed over a period of time, and now as the things stand, all the allotments of this group housing plots are basically on a deferred lease basis of 10 years effectively.
Okay.
So the developers, as they are always in a cash crunch, what happens is that they do the development. So their building is ready, it's ready for occupancy. But because they have chosen not to pay the authority, because the deferred lease payment to the authority is at an interest of 18%.
And because they haven't paid the full payment, they are not getting the required paperwork and the certificates from the authority, clearly.
Yeah, definitely. And there is logical, the reason behind it. Authority gives this deferred lease basis on 11% interest rate. Now a developer which has a choice of either not paying the authority at 11% interest, where he pays the interest at 11%, and where he has to commercially borrow it from somebody at 14%, 16%, 18%, whatever. So obviously he makes the obvious choice. But this creates a difficulty where the developer has run out of money. He doesn't have now the last payments.
But he's taken 95%, 97% of the money from the buyers. So what can buyers do? And my first question to you, should they be going for such fit-outs, knowing fully well that that the developer hasn't got the occupation certificate from the authorities?
Well, first of all, it's illegal on the part of the developer itself to offer occupancy when he has not obtained the occupancy certificate from the authority. So if the developer, so the buyer should first ask this question: you are offering possession or possession of fit outs, then you please show us the completion certificate. Partial completion can also be obtained from authority. So either partial completion certificate or the occupancy certificate, whatever has been obtained, the buyer should first satisfy that the developer has obtained that from the authority. Only after that, that should make the balance payment to the developer. And secondly, and if it is not be obtained, then they should clearly communicate and put it on record that I am not going ahead with your offer for possession for this reason.
We've also got a lot of queries from buyers of developers, whether it's Amrapali, Supertech, Ramaprastha, Lotus Greens, saying developers now at the final stage are demanding more money. Sometimes they say it's maintenance. Sometimes it's that Supreme Court verdict which had also said that farmers' compensation must be increased. So what is the correct legal position for buyers?
So between buyer and developer, what is supreme is what is actually recorded in the flat buy agreement. Any incidental expense incurred by the developer, for example, the enhanced farmer compensation. Technically, if you strict legal sense, this cannot be passed by the government or the authority to the developers, and similarly, it cannot be justifiably passed by the developers to the end.
But it clearly is being passed on.
Yeah, well, I'm not commenting on the practice. I'm just stating the legal position that validly it cannot be passed on from one to the other. Other issues like other charges, for example, maintenance charges and stuff. Now these charges are not payable till the developer has actually obtained occupancy certificate and is conveying the flat by way of sublease in case of Noida and Greater Noida area, by way of sublease to the end consumer. Till that is done, he cannot actually validly claim the maintenance charges.
Okay.
It should be in a position to do so at least.
So you're saying in the first situation where the buyers are being told, come do your fit outs, come do partial occupancy, don't do it unless you've seen the paperwork, unless you've seen the certificates. If the buyers were still to do it without having seen the certificates, can the buyers get into trouble with authorities at all?
I'm not very sure whether the buyer will be found delinquent here, because buyer will always have the advantage of saying that I have acted at the representation of the developer. To that extent they have the legal shield. But if they are very well aware that the occupancy certificate is not there, then in case they are going ahead with that, then there is the element of illegality coming in.
And what can buyers do if the builders are not going ahead and getting the occupancy certificate? Let's say they even do the partial fit outs, they decide not to do it, etc. They will want to take over these properties, right? So what are the legal options for buyers?
Legal option for buyer will be to go to the consumer forum, complain about this, and for this they should first file an RTI with the authority, get the current position of what payments they have made to the authority with respect to the lease under which the plot has been allotted to them, and get the correct facts there, go to the court, seek damages.
So these buyers first have paid for their properties, then they had to wait because of the NGT Okla Bird Sanctuary case. Now the builders are not paying the authorities, and now they have to go to court.
Well, all adds up to damages that they can claim.
So can they claim those damages as well?
Yeah, so if you look at, if you evaluate the NGT order, NGT order never, I mean, for a minuscule time period, did not prohibit.
Year and a half.
No, it did not prohibit developers from carrying out the development for already launched projects. So what is stopped was giving new projects, commencing new projects and getting the certificate for the completed projects. But it never stopped the construction of the projects.
Okay.
So basically, no developer can validly ask that because of NGT order there is a delay in completing the project. They can always say that I had completed the project, I could not obtain the occupancy certificate in light of this NGT order. But that will be very few and far between.
So you're saying buyers also have an option of seeking damages till the builders actually go ahead and pay the authorities and get the occupation certificate?
Yes, very true.
Okay, and what is the way out of this? What is the solution so that this problem is fixed once and for all? Why should the authorities be giving land to developers with such a long payment plan?
Yeah, ideally, given the market conditions today, authorities should not be. I mean, to entice developers to or new entrepreneurs to come and do development in a new area. So, 10 years, say 15 years ago, that was kind of commercially justified. When you're setting up a new township or new industrial township, the whole gamut of development has to take place. Not every can be developed by the authority itself or the government by itself. So, obviously, we like to have private participation there. And then you offer soaps. So this kind of deferred payment is kind of soap being offered to the developers. But once this market had matured, the market was quite hot at one point of time. At that point of time, to give such concession, in fact to elongate that concession or enlarge that concession, I do not see much of merit there.
Okay, so that is something that the UP government, the Uttar Pradesh government has to fix. Nothing that the buyers can do. Your advice to the buyers in interim is get your paperwork in order, file an RTI, see what all payments have been made, and then decide if there's any need to go to the consumer court.
True, and here also there is a key role to be played by the bankers, the lenders. So any buyer who has, any banker who has approved lending for a particular project, they should ensure in a bilateral relation with the developer that after certain duration, in case developer has not paid to the authority, the money they have to disburse will be disbursed directly to the authority rather than to the developer, so that everything is ensured that whatever payment is.
Have you ever seen banks do that? Have they ever taken such a step?
Yeah, I think a few banks have already started doing that practice.
They started doing that in NOIDA?
Yeah.
So that should be bearing some fruit.
It should.
Can you tell us in which cases?
No, I cannot reveal the names as yet.
Okay, so let's hope the banks also do their bit. Thanks, Neeraj, for joining us here on Prime Property with this discussion.
Thank you.
Hope those legal tips help you all out. With that, time for another short commercial break. When we return, a famous art auction house has set its eyes on the luxury real estate business. Details when we return.